There is no bigger warrior than the guest that we have on today. Before MMA was in fast food commercials and beer ads, it was martial artists, warriors, testing their strength. And no one exemplified these ideals more than the Yamato Damashi himself. Myself and Ash are extremely humbled to have such an amazing fighter on the show. Enson Inoue, how are you doing today, sir?
Good, man. Really good. Thanks for having me.
Oh man, we are pumped to have you on the show. Man, you know what? You've done media for like 25 years in the MMA industry, more than 25 years now. What questions are you sick of being asked, Enson?
Nothing really. It's always a different approach to a question. It doesn't really matter. It's probably I'm probably not going to be asked a question I haven't answered yet. So
yeah,
let them roll.
So let me try and see if I could think of something that you've not been asked. But obviously, you mentioned that you're basically ready to kind of kill or die in every single fight going that you go into. Did you have to develop that mentality, or was it something that you had right from the start in your first ever fight?
Well, it's a mentality I had from the start, because when I went into the sport, it wasn't a sport. It was more like a street fight. So we were going in the ring not because there were sponsors or belts or, any type of way to make a living. It was more just about testing yourself, getting in the ring, challenge yourself. So when you're in there doing that, they didn't have you could hit the back of the head. There wasn't rules on you can't stomp or soccer ball kick. So there's all these like a street fight. So when you go into a street fight, you can't. There's no tapping, yeah. So you're basically going in there to kill or be killed. So that's kind of what kind of got me into that state of mind whenever I fought. I saw it as a street fight.
But in reality, it was a street fight, and you were trying to test yourself, and you fought with a warrior spirit. But you were also one of the more disciplined people who used martial arts as a base. It was like you were going into a street fight, ready to die, fight anyone attitude. But you were an incredible martial artist as well, right?
Yeah, well, I was lucky because in Hawaii there's a lot of street fights. So I used to train different types of martial arts to protect myself in the streets. And of course, when I got into the ring, for me it was still I felt like it was a controlled street fight. So, if you're going to go in the ring and you're planning to fight to the death or kill or be killed, by all means, you want to walk out of the ring alive. So I did a proper training because I wanted to defend myself.
Well,
and come out alive,
Well, it's kind of a weird, going from A to B. You moved to Japan to get into racquetball, and then you're working in Vale Tudo, no holds barred. You're working in street fights. How did you go from racquetball to street fights? I don't think anyone else in history has done that conversion before.
Well, I was a racquetball player, and I was living in Japan playing racquetball. I actually started taking over one of Egan's racquetball companies, eForce. So I just ran it for about 4 years, and when it got real sturdy, I just thought that, I'd go back to Hawaii because my heart was in Hawaii. I loved the beaches. I loved surfing. I loved the night diving. So I was an ocean boy. I was in the ocean every single day. So I wanted to get back. And when I decided to go back, all I decided to is I wanted to get in the ring, just to feel that anxiety, just to test myself, just to put myself in a situation where I would have to grow and become stronger as a man to be able to work through it. So that's the only reason why I got into the ring. It was not something I was going to do more than one fight. It wasn't something I considered was going to be a career. It was just something, it was one time, just give it a shot and try it out,
So you mentioned anxiety, yeah? So I really like the fact that you mentioned that, because that actually is a great segue to the anxiety question we always ask fighters. And obviously you've gone through anxiety. Does that lessen as your fighting career went on, or did it never go away? And what was your coping mechanisms for dealing with that anxiety as well?
It never went away. The way I dealt with the anxiety is I just trained as hard as I could. So, feeling that you're 100% ready for what you're going into, whether or not the opponent's going to be better than you or not, and going to have more than you or not. I, for myself, knew as who Enson Inoue was, I was as prepared as I could be. So that helps with anxiety. The worry about, oh, I should have trained a little harder. I shouldn't have took so much days off. That kind of stuff will add to the anxiety. So I think I trained very hard. So my anxiety was at a level that was always pretty much the same. It never went away, but it never really got to a point where it overcame me and the jitters and the anxiety took over.
It's yeah, and it's kind of, we were talking about this with another kind of legacy fighter with Frank Shamrock, and said fighting, it's a weird thing. Anxiety is always before the fight, but in the ring or in the cage,
Yeah.
these people find peace in fighting. Do you relate to that idea?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much happening. It's like there's no more thinking. You pretty much got to react. It's all the training you put into the gym. It's just got to flow now. It's either going to happen or not, and you don't have time. You don't have time to worry. You don't have time to think. The guy's coming at you. You got to react, and you either do or die.
You've always had this, like, again, as we mentioned, kill or die mentality. I remember I was rewatching some of your fights as well, and there was one in particular with Mark Kerr where you've got death on the back of your head, and like, where did that stem from? Like, where did that stem from? Is it something that you've always had, or because I wanted to
Mark Kerr. Well, all my fights that I've taken, I today I hear all the fighters, saying this kind of stuff like, oh, I can beat him in the second round, I can beat him in the first round. I don't think I've ever took a fighter thinking I could beat him. I always took a fighter that I thought would break me or would put me into that, put me into that fear zone that I would want to quit. So I wanted to put myself in that zone. And Mark Kerr, when I decided to fight, Mark Kerr, you remember how he looked, his body, they called him the specimen.
Smashing machine, man. 250.
Yeah,
pounds.
and he just went. He was so overpowered everybody. And the thing I remember the most was when the last fight I saw him fight was in Pride. He fought Hugo Duarte, and Hugo Duarte for us jiu-jitsu people was like a beast because he's the only one that challenged Rickson on the beach. And actually got Rickson in a mount in the beginning. I mean, you can't see it clear on the tape, but if you really watch the tape well, he mounted Rickson in the beginning. So, Hugo Duarte was one of the luta livre, the enemy of jiu-jitsu, the biggest beast and the scariest dude. But this guy got disqualified from being broken by Mark Kerr and running out of the ring too many times. So for me, when I remember watching that, it was in the Tokyo Dome. I remember watching it in the nosebleed seats.
Yeah.
And I remember looking at that, watching that fight and watching that Hugo. I mean, I thought Hugo Duarte was going to win because I thought Hugo Duarte, he's a beast. And to see what he did and to see Mark Kerr do that to him, for me, I was like, I gotta feel that. I gotta fight Mark Kerr. So for me, Mark Kerr was, I think I just beat Randy too. So there was talk about who's the best fighter in the world. Yeah. And I was lucky that my name was actually thrown into that discussion, and it was pretty much Enson and Mark Kerr. And so I felt that Mark Kerr was so much bigger than me. I think he was like 50 pounds heavier than me, and I felt that he's going to be my ultimate test. And I felt that I'm ready to die, and that's why I had the word death put into the back of my head. It wasn't about Mark Kerr. Everyone thinks it was I'm going to kill Mark Kerr. No, it wasn't that. It was I'm ready to die. I'm ready to die. So that's why I put death in the back of my head.
Kill or die, man. That's the mentality.
Yeah.
So you fought a lot of wrestlers, and I saw this. Both me and Tim, I saw this in the Rogan podcast years and years ago, where you mentioned wrestlers just didn't have any jiu-jitsu back then, and there was a guy Royce Algier that you fought. You submitted as well, and he comes from a great wrestling lineage. Dan Gable as well, if I'm correct there. So you beat him by submission. You beat Randy Couture by submission. Why did wrestlers jiu-jitsu just suck? Is it just something that they just didn't train with back then?
No, I think wrestlers were so strong at taking down and getting on top, and their movement was so good. I think they got away with a lot because wrestlers were so natural that they could actually avoid some jiu-jitsu submissions because their movement was so well. And I really took pride in my armbar. I had a really good armbar from the bottom. And I just felt that wrestlers just didn't understand or haven't really been in a situation where they're being armbarred by someone that was a real good technical armbar submission technician. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I didn't really choose wrestlers. It just so happened that wrestlers were the ones that seemed to really make me, I see the wrestler there. I fought Randy. He was a heavyweight champ at the time. Before that, my opponent was supposed to be Dan Severn.
Oh, wow.
But Dan Severn had a pro wrestling obligation, so became Randy. So for some reason, all my opponents that they threw at me were wrestlers. Even Mustafa Abdul was a wrestler. A lot of wrestlers, yeah. So I don't know. The wrestlers just seem to come into my my line of competition, and it just so happened that they didn't understand armbars. They do now, but they didn't understand armbars back then.
So yeah, at the time that makes a lot of sense. You were ahead of the game at the time, and you mentioned Dan Severn. There was other guys of this time like Tank Abbott's, Randy Couture is another example of guys of this era who just love fighting and never quit. A lot of these guys had the problem that they stayed in the game far too long. What was your reason for stepping away from fighting? It's something you clearly love and are passionate about.
Well, my whole objective in fighting was to build myself as a person, to become a stronger man. And that's why when I pick all the fights, I pick the fights that I thought was going to make me a stronger man. So, if you fight someone that you're better than and you can beat, you don't gain anything besides your name and reputation and, that feeling of victory. For me, the victory in my heart wasn't winning or losing in the ring by getting your hand raised. My victory and defeat was about if you could push yourself to the very end. So whether I win or lose, if I could go 100% and give 100% till I get knocked out or I get submitted or if I go to sleep, then I believe I won the fight. So, that was my whole main objective. And if when I fought Igor, it was probably the worst beating I've ever had. I had a perforated eardrum, I had a broken jaw, broken finger, I had a liver count 2,000 times the normal person, and I had a swollen brain. So, So and if you watch the fight, I mean, I went into the fear zone and I stood toe to toe with Igor. He threw me to the ground, so that was a victory in itself. And then I remember getting hit by. I also remember the exact punch that perforated my eardrum. But I remember I was getting really damaged, and I could feel the damage happening. But not once in the fight did I feel like I don't want to be here. Not once in the fight I tried to find a way out. So for me, I just felt the damage that I had. I didn't realize. I thought I could fight. I thought I cut him in the first round. When the second round came, and the doctor tried to wave off the fight, I was screaming no because I wanted more time to recover before he made the decision. And I felt I cut him up. We're gonna start standing. I didn't realize that my equilibrium was off so badly because of my perforated eardrum, and I didn't realize that the next time I could actually walk and go to the bathroom by myself was actually 5 days later.
Wow.
Yeah. So with the amount of damage that I went through, and I was in intensive care for the first 2 days. I had a 24-hour nurse sitting at my room. And, I just felt that, I don't think the human body could actually go through that much more damage.
Yeah.
And I felt that there's nothing more that MMA can teach me. So that was one of the biggest reasons why I felt like, there's nothing more for me to gain in MMA. There was no money. There was no fame. It wasn't about that. It was about testing myself. And I felt that I went through the ultimate test and I passed with flying colors. Yeah. The other reason why I also retired was because just think about the situation I'm putting myself in every time in the ring. When you're accepting death, you're training for 3 months for the fight, training as hard as you can because you don't want to die. Before the fight, you're writing letters to all the people that you care about because you might die in the ring and you might not be able to say your farewell. So all the people I wasn't afraid about dying. I was afraid about how I'm going to leave the people that I cared about. So I wrote letters to everybody. And, if you ever found out, like if someone had told you, dude, you're going to die in Hawaii, by all means, you're going to stay away from Hawaii, right? Because you're not ready to die yet. So it's like, I'm not going to go to Hawaii. My destiny is to die in Hawaii. I'll go to Hawaii maybe 20 years later or 30 years later and take my chances then. I'm not going to go next year, so, but for me, I accepted that I was going to die in that square ring that's lit up and has thousands of people watching. I admitted to myself that I'm going to die, and I'm walking there with my own power, with my own choice. The stress doing that, the stress of preparing everything you're doing in your life to know that this day might be your last day. That was a little bit too much for me.
Did you ever feel like, 99.999% of people on the planet Earth will probably tap to that, in the Eagle fight, because that was, just showed you how tough you are. Your chin is 10 out of 10.
You know what it is? It's not about, people think that I was super tough. That's why I never tapped. But it's not about toughness. It's about the mindset. If I plan to walk in a casino and I don't want to lose more than $1,000 and I'm losing 800, I start getting scared. But if I walk into the casino planning to lose 10 grand, I lose 2 grand. It's not a big deal. You walk into a ring thinking, okay, I'm willing to, push myself and maybe get hurt, but I don't want any broken bones. By all means, I don't want to die. If you're getting your arm broken, you're going to freak out and you're going to tap out. I was prepared to die. I was prepared to the most ultimate. So a broken arm or going to sleep wasn't anything that would bring any red flags in my head, So that was one thing. And I think my mindset, my mind, my focus was so strong that you ever thought of why fighters tap? Did you guys ever think of that?
I would assume.
Want to get out.
It's not pain. It's the anticipation of what you think is going to happen. And then by anticipating that, it creates a whole big rush of fear. And that fear creates you to tap because of the anticipation. So when I'm getting choked out by somebody, I'm not anticipating going to sleep. I'm anticipating getting out of the choke. I'm anticipating, I'm focusing on how I'm going to get out of this choke. When Nogueira had me in the dark triangle, I wasn't thinking about, oh, fuck, I'm going to go to sleep. If he holds it too long, I might die. If that's the case, I would tap. But my mindset was more on, okay, open up your arm, open up that vessel, relax, get some air. And then while I was doing that, I fell asleep.
And it kind of makes sense as well to focus on the positive, because even I remember even the Pride fight after, I can't remember now, but there was actually it was Nogueira. So they did an interview before, and you're mentioning about the Eagle fight, and you go, it didn't actually hurt. Like, it didn't hurt. It just felt like I was getting jarred in a car accident, like, just getting jarred a little bit. It didn't actually hurt. I was still game, man. And it kind of makes sense in that sense. But going to Igor, how was it fighting like a monster like that, man? Is he the biggest power puncher you've ever faced?
Yeah, he was the scariest puncher because before the moment I wanted to fight Igor was because I saw him knock out Francisco Bueno. Yeah. And Francisco Bueno's a big boy.
Yeah.
And Igor turned his lights out with one right hook. And on the way down, he swung a couple huge punches. And I think he hit him with a left.
Yeah, I remember
on the way down, while Francisco's eyes are still rolled back, he falls on the mat, and his wife or girlfriend is about 5 seats away from me in the front row. And she's screaming bloody murder because he's not moving. I mean, seeing that happen right in front of my eyes, I was like, oh my God, that fear of being in front of those punches it's got to bring so much anxiety. And that's where I was like, I want to fight Igor.
Yeah, let's do it. Just kidding.
And then, of course, for training for Igor, everyone's, everyone is thinking I should take him down, get on top, because my ground was better than his. But for me, I was like, man, no, I want to stand toe to toe with this guy. I want to see what that feels like. I want to see what my heart will do. I want to see what the anxiety will do to me. And I actually had the chance to do that.
how do you balance that attitude and then you're teaching other people martial arts? I assume that's not the attitude you instill in others, or is that something like embrace the fear or run from the fear? How do you teach that kind of ideas to other people that you've been working with?
Well, if I notice the fighter is like me, then I can teach him that. I can, it's those really hard times in training. Training, you break yourself in training. And it's those little words and those little comments you can put into his head at that crucial time when he's about to break in training. That's how you can help him. It's a little bit harder for me because I'm training one of the ex-sumo wrestlers now, Sudario Tsuyoshi. And he's more of a sportsman. He's the type where doesn't want to get hurt. He wants to pick fights that he will win. And at the first sign of trouble, he'll freak out and tap. So for me, it's a good learning lesson for me because I'm learning how to teach someone like that, because I can't instill what I think because it won't resonate with them.
But so it's hard. It's easier to teach people when they're in the same mindset as you. But yeah, teaching people who have a different mindset, it's hard to communicate. You don't have the same ideas. But let me ask you, I love sumo wrestling. I got into sumo wrestling recently. Are you calling up Hakuo? Is he going to get into MMA? Are you going to train the big boy next?
No, actually, I didn't really reach out to this guy. One of the ex-sumo wrestlers, one of my classmates, Saliva Tisanoi Konishiki, he reached out to me, told me that this kid just got kicked out of sumo. He wants to fight, but he doesn't know where to go. So he asked me, can you train him? And I was like, yeah, we had like a month before the next fight. And I said, yeah. He actually came in and lived with me because we only had a month. So I said, if you really want to get ready, we need to train every day. Yeah. So he came and lived in, and I was just going to do that as a favor to Sale, so Konishiki, and that's it. I was training my wife. That's it. Other than that, I don't enjoy training people. Mm-hmm. So after that fight, he turned and he said he doesn't want to train under anyone else but me. So that's how that happened. Yeah. And he gave me that whole spew about, Yamato Damashi and, he's ready to die in the ring and that kind of stuff. And, I didn't know you. It's hard to tell when you're not with a person for a long time. And one of his fights he just lost, he just freaked out and tapped. And I just realized that, okay, now this is how I have to train. I have to learn how to train him differently now. So, it's a learning process for me. And I think me coaching now is a chance for me to learn and to grow as a person in that sense.
Amazing. You've always had this, ready to die mentality, and it's like a perfect segue to my next question. So now, in terms of MMA, I'm not sure if you're familiar with like what's going on. I mean, if you're still following up with MMA and everything else,
but I follow it every day.
Nice. But it's completely changed in terms of how promotion is done and how everything is done. So a perfect example is Suga Sean O'Malley, who's actually publicly said, I'm not going to fight anyone that, who's that good, who's going to challenge me too much. I'm just going to, ride it out to the end of my contract and hope to get paid a little bit more. What's your thoughts on that? Obviously, it's a very different kind of mindset as a veteran in Pride.
Well, it's a whole different mentality because they're brought up in a whole different time.
Yeah.
For us, there was no fame or money. So I can't say that, these guys are so material. They're fighting for money. They're fighting for fame. I can't look down on these people because I never had that. Who knows if my day, if we had a lot of money and a lot of fame, who knows if I would want to fight for those things. Maybe the sparkle and glitter of the money and the belts and the fame might overshine the fact that I just want to test myself. There was nothing else in MMA. It was called No Holds Barred. There was nothing. There was no money. So all the guys that was getting into that, they were either a little bit off or they had a deeper meaning of testing yourself as a martial artist. So, I can't say that, these persons aren't a martial artist like me because I'm not in the same situation as them. They're not in the same situation as me. I believe a lot of these fighters nowadays would not be fighting if it was like our day, because not only was there no money and there was no fame, there was also a very small understanding of what this sport was. This sport was so misunderstood. It was like human cockfighting, it was like too dangerous, too crazy, barbaric, So, it's a real difference. Like, Sean's fighting in that way and it has that idea, but it's you got a whole spectrum of fighters now and different ideas and attitudes because it's a sport. And sometimes now it's moving more towards entertainment more than a sport. So when you have that aspect thrown into it, you're gonna have guys still like Khabib that are fighting as warriors. Guys like Michael Chandler that's ready to just Justin Gaethje. But then you're gonna have guys like that just want to fight and win. Want to fight and come out safe. Want to fight and don't get too hurt and make as much money as they can and take off. And hats off to that. Everyone to each his own. Everyone has their own ideas and their own things that turn them on.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. And now we are kind of in the money era in terms of fighting. We are fighting for money, and we all know it. And fighting is a good way to make money in terms of celebrity YouTube boxing is kind of the trend right now. It's kind of the thing. Enson, if you were to step back in the ring, would you be interested in celebrity YouTube boxing? And let me throw some names your way and see if any of these bad boys interest you. A Bob Sapp, a Mike Tyson exhibition, a Fedor Emelianenko. Is this something that you could be, for money, get back in the ring, or are you totally done at this point?
Well, the second name you said, Mike Tyson, hell no. I don't think I want to feel those punches. He moves really good yet.
Yeah.
he still moves good at his age. He's like 60 million years old.
I think he's a year older than me, so he's 54 or 55 right now.
Gotcha.
I think he's like months older than me, so he turns 55 a little sooner than me. So I think I would be interested in it to test myself, especially as a mixed martial artist. Our forte is in boxing. It isn't necessarily standing. It's not necessarily ground. It's everything. So we're like the Navy SEALs. We're a jack of all trades. We're jack of all trades, masters of none. So that's what happens when there's so much that you have to cover in mixed martial arts. Boxers work only on their hands. They're 100% better than us. So I think that would have definitely interested me. Whether it right now I'm thinking as the retired Enson, fuck if I want to fight Mike Tyson, but I could see myself back in that day being a little bit attracted to, being at the edge of that and seeing how that would feel, So I think that Enson now, I'm not interested in any type of fighting. I watch fights and I don't have this, my wife's still she's still an active fighter.
Hey.
So she watches fights and wants to go out and train in the garage that night.
Nice.
I watch the fights and I want to go freaking go lay down, get a massage, go get some popcorn and go to sleep after the fights. So
that's me because we're in the UK.
Now, man, I don't want to break my hands fighting bare knuckles. Boxing in a celeb. I don't know if I could last more than 30 seconds in a ring right now. But the Enson back then, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely bare knuckle, celebrity boxing, all that stuff would, not because of the money, but because I would probably want to challenge myself. And I probably wouldn't want to fight someone like a Jake Paul. I would want to probably fight someone that, like someone that I wouldn't be able to beat, like a Tyson Fury, Of course, I'd be more intellectual about it. Like for me, in my martial arts career, to say I want to go fight Mike Tyson at his prime or Tyson Fury at his prime is not what I probably would do, because I do want to challenge myself, but I would challenge myself intellectually. I wanted to fight Mark Kerr because I felt I was very versed in MMA. Mm-hmm. So if I fought boxing, it'd probably be like a more of a higher ranked mediocre boxer that would really test myself. Not I don't know if I'd go like for Mike Tyson or not. I definitely wouldn't be interested in a YouTuber.
I get that. What about on the other side? I know that you had worked quite closely with Sakuraba in the past, and he's still working in submission grappling with his quintet shows. Mm-hmm. Is that something that could interest you a little bit more? Maybe not quintet specifically, but just working with Sakuraba in some way.
Yeah, I'm doing right now. I'm doing a lot of I'm making bracelets. I have a
Yeah.
bracelets business now. I'm real passionate in that. So I really enjoy that. I raise kois, and I'm real passionate in that too. I My passion isn't fighting. My passion isn't martial arts anymore. I do enjoy watching it as a fan. I have interest in it because I train people and because my wife is an active fighter. Well, other than that, I'd be more happy with just staying home, watching the UFC every weekend. As far as being more involved, being a promoter, or I, I, I'd rather use my time shopping for Power Stones. I'd rather use my time driving up to Niigata, which is about 3 hours away, and visiting some of the best koi farms in the world. I my heart is somewhere else. Yeah.
Yeah, I gotcha.
When you first retired, I mean, a lot of fighters, they go through a bit of an adjustment period. Some get quite depressed, or some find it very difficult to almost adapt to civilian life, because ultimately MMA training is, even Khabib said it's like being a bit of a prisoner. You're training non-stop, you're sleeping, you're eating, and that's it. Was it a bit of an adjustment period for you? Going away from fighting, that is.
I think for me, because of the mentality I had of life and death, I think for me it was more of a relief. So I was like in this fire and wondering when I was gonna die in the fire. And I finally stepped out of the fire. There was this big relief that, it wasn't like I had to adjust. It was like I enjoyed not having to train every day. I enjoyed not having to push myself to the limits and see what I can do. I enjoyed not waking up every day and seeing if I could break myself in training. It was really nice just to wake up and not really worry about being comfortable with the man that I am now and just enjoying my life.
And you've done some pretty awesome things since that time. You wrote a book, Live as a Die, Die as a Man, Become a Man. You also, like you said, you're working on your Destiny Forever bracelets, which look awesome, by the way, and I'll put the link down below for everybody there. The t-shirts, which is going on at Tico, and I'll put the link down there, but also the Enson Inoue Foundation. Can you tell us a little bit more about the Enson Inoue Foundation and what it does and what its goals are?
Yeah, I find joy in helping others, and I believe that the true joy of happiness is not the happiness of receiving, but the happiness of giving. It's unfortunate that when we're children, we're taught that the greatest happiness in life is receiving gifts. So, the day that's supposed to be your special day, your birthday, people bring you presents because you're supposed to be happy getting presents. But in life, unfortunately, there are people that live and die still believing that. But I'm lucky enough to have experienced a lot of things in my life that I realized that the true happiness in life is the happiness of giving. And so, my whole first taste of it was when they had the big tsunami and earthquake in Japan. And a lot of people were leaving Japan because the radiation, and a lot of people were choosing to get further away from the area. But something hit me and I decided to head up to the area. I mean, I headed up there when the roads were still unstable. Gasoline was still hard to get. So I had to, the drive up was really hard because the highways was closed because of cracks. So I had to get on and off, on and off, on and off. And when I got on the highway, there was no cars. There was all army trucks and police cars. There was no regular cars. I was one of the few regular cars on there. Of course, I was in a Hummer, so it wasn't like a regular car. So I blended in well. Got to the area, and what was really amazing was the tsunami was something that you the only place it's destroyed until is where the wave hits. So it's not like an earthquake where the epicenter, and then as you get further, the damage is gradually getting less. The tsunami is different, man. The tsunami is 100%. Everything's fine. You take that one turn, and you turn into the area where the waves hit, and everything is demolished. It's like you can draw a line, and on the right side of the line, everything's perfect. The left side of the line, everything's demolished. It was incredible. And went up there, and there was army trucks what was happening when I went up there was they were still trying to make their fine bodies, and they were trying to make roads so that they can take out and move all the bodies out. So when I went up there that first time, I went in to check a friend. He was okay. He brought me to a temporary evacuation center.
Mm-hmm.
Went there, and these people literally ran out of the houses with their shoes on their feet. And some of them without even their shoes on their feet, just the clothes on their back. Went in there, and they're living in cardboard boxes. And I went in there, and I got to know the people really well. After about a week of going to the evacuation center every day to visit them and bring them little supplies, they started opening up to me. They asked me for shoes. They gave me their sizes. I went to buy shoes, and it's amazing. When I the warmth I had in my heart. I remember this old lady that I gave her shoes, and one of the reporters went there and asked her that, how are you doing? And she looked at me and she said, "You see this shirt on my back? This is from Enson, and these shoes right here." And she hugged it to her chest and said, "This is also from Enson." And she turned around and walked to her cardboard box, and I just choked up, and I just thought, wow, I want to just something lit a flame. I want to do more of this. So I'm currently on my 60th mission up north. So I've continued traveling up there, and from evacuation centers, they went into temporary housing. And I continued bringing up supplies to them. I continued, found the orphanage that needed help. I'm still bringing shoes. We just sent over 55 pairs of shoes for the orphans. I went and bought them, and we sent them up. We get the principal to send us shoe sizes and colors that they like, and we get them the best shoes that we can find. So that's what the foundation helps me with too. The foundation helps me chase my happiness and helping people.
It's amazing.
It's an incredible legacy to have, but is it also, it's something that you have, you can help people, and it feels amazing to do that, but it has been over a decade. Like, why have these people not been able to recover and move on since this has happened?
The government's pretty fucked up. I mean, as you guys know, even our U.S. government's fucked up. All governments are a mafia that's backed up by the law. That's all it is. I mean, mafia guys or yakuzas they're just not backed up by the law, and that's all it is. They're just as dirty as anyone else. And the Japanese government, they, like for example, the temporary housing people still needed help. Of the 8th year, they're kicked out of the temporary housing and put back into, sometimes in some of their houses that were, the radiation still hasn't changed. It's only been 8 years at the time, and in 8 years, Chernobyl. You're talking 60, 70 years before people can even think of moving back there. It's only been 8 years when they moved them back into the same houses that has the same type of radiation. And you know why they did that? Because they had to raise money for the Olympics. They were putting all their money to the Olympics.
I didn't know that. Wow.
So for me, the people up north were really against the Olympics because they didn't feel like they should be spending their money on the Olympics. And how interesting is it how karma bites back? Did you see what happened to their Olympics? It almost got canceled.
Oh yeah.
That was like they lost so much money on Olympics because they couldn't allow foreigners in. There's only the athletes. The Olympics was the biggest failure, I think, and they lost billions of dollars.
Yeah,
that's karma.
That kind of stuff. That kind of stuff that the Japanese government does that just doesn't, favor the people right now. So I believe that my missions up north is going to be probably happening till the day I die.
Jeez, that's sad.
So I'm going to change gears a little bit, but that's fantastic to hear. And I really like the fact that you're actively helping people. That's what worlds should be all about, really. It's not, for the most part, but yeah, that's really cool. But in terms of Pride, you had, a lot of people, they attribute the downfall of Pride to the Yokozuna. Would you agree to that? And why is that anyway?
Well, there was a big problem with. I don't know exactly what the problem was, but what happened with the problem was, it became public that Pride was working with the Yakuza.
Yeah.
Okay, it became public. Everybody already knew.
Yeah.
Everybody knows. I mean, in Japan, every single company, Shuto, Deep, Rising, they're all linked.
Yeah.
They're all connected to the Yakuza. I mean, everybody knows that, but once it becomes public, all the sponsors and TV stations can't support it anymore.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much the whole problem. Is it something that everybody knew, but it became public?
Yeah. And it's true of Japan that go ahead, Ash. Sorry.
No, I was going to say, so obviously, Pride was an organization that was built on honor and respect, and literally pride. It was based on all those morals and stuff. Do you think that was obviously the kind of the cause and effect of it just completely going downhill, just the image of Pride, more so than the financial dealings?
I think it was just an unfortunate situation. I think the people behind Pride, even the people behind Rising today, I'm not sure that I can stand and vouch and say that they're people of honor. Maybe they pushed the honor and that Pride stance because they felt it was the best way to sell tickets and promote the organization. I mean, I had fighters like me and a lot of the other fighters in there that were fighting with honor and pride, and the promoters, they had some of them had other agendas. They lied to us, they cheated us, I mean, but I'm very grateful that they gave us a platform to show our skills, test ourselves, and a platform to fight for honor.
And there was a short period in human history when Pride FC was the biggest thing on earth. That was an absolutely incredible show, the size of Pride. And Pride only existed 10 years, and we're still talking about Pride. We're like 15 years on. The thing is, think about it like this, Ryzen and Dream combined have existed longer than Pride has. And we still talk about those 10 years of Pride. There was something magical about Pride. What was it like fighting in this organization, fighting in that kind of golden era of MMA?
Well, I think the magical thing about Pride was a promotion really did help because they had an amazing production. It felt like the opening ceremony, it felt like you're standing in a movie. It was like standing on a movie set, like, whoa. And you're not fighting until your time in the ring is, it's just hours before in the opening ceremony. But for some reason, that opening ceremony, that music, the way they did that, it just created that adrenaline that you started shadow boxing, you started stretching. I mean,
the theme music is so good.
Lit that fire in you, yeah. And that, and the thing with the Pride was incredible was it was still in that era where they didn't have weight classes. All the fighters, they were paying the most money. So all the fighters wanted to fight in Pride. All the UFC fighters wanted to fight in Pride. Pride was where it was. Right now it's the UFC. Yeah. But before it was Pride, man. I mean, I think it was just the type of fighters we had in Pride. It was incredible. I mean, we had everybody, and I was lucky just to be one of the guys living in Japan, able to be a part of that.
And they arguably, with the UFC, they saw the success of Pride. They saw that they had big stars, and they basically swallowed up Pride, man. They had Shogun. They took everyone, man. I mean, Shogun being one of the biggest stars there. But yeah, I mean, how was it? Like, did it almost make you sad in a way? Because, you got this great thing that's happening in Japan, almost like a church, yeah, when people would watch fights, because people would be quiet, man. And, when they see someone passing guard or, getting dropped, like you cheer then, but they was very, very measured in the way they respond to things. It's completely different with an American audience. Was that sad to see?
Yeah, I was actually surprised because my whole career was in Japan. The only time I fought was in the UFC 13 when I fought in Augusta, Georgia. And I remember when I went in there, any intellectual person knows if I'm from Hawaii, I'm American.
Yeah.
But when I went in there and fought Royce Alger, I remember hearing a USA call. And I heard it during the fight, and I was thinking, these fucking idiots. You know, I was thinking, who the fuck they cheering for? USA. They're cheering USA. So, you know, I mean, I go to some, you know, and then later on in my career, I actually went and watched some fights abroad, and it's like, they're, you know, got drunk guys on the side of me that definitely has never fought a day in their life, screaming, "What the fuck, you faggot, punch him!" You know, they're screaming this real idiotic things, and you know, and then that's when I realized that, wow, the Japan crowd's amazing. They're, you know, you can pretty much hear the cornermen talk. They'll ooh and ah when someone passes guard. You know, they're very intellectual and they're real educated about the fight, you know, techniques and systems. So, you know, yeah, it was awesome, and you know, the fans treated you like gods.
Yeah,
It was amazing, and you know, the thing is, the fans not only treated like gods, but they were very respectful. Although they were like so excited to see you, they would die for an autograph. They still were like, "Oh shit!" But he's on his personal time. I'll ask it in the most polite way possible. You know, so it was, you know, it's a crazy mixture of how crazy the fans are, manic the fans are, but how respectful they also are.
I think it came down to knowledge as well, because I think Tim was did a live with Todd Atkins yesterday, and Todd brought up a really good point. Yeah, that you know the fans are just not more knowledgeable. We're talking about actual martial artists, and it's completely different to an American crowd. You know, you see an American crowd, and you know if you see someone pass guard or how half guard position, they might not respect it as much. Do you feel like with the Americans? So you mentioned something when they go, "Oh, like USA." That hasn't really changed in a way, because you got, I don't know if you if you've seen this, but Belal Muhammad, the last fight he had, they were just screaming at USA. It's like, it's from Chicago, man. What the hell?
It's freaking embarrassing as an American seeing that kind of shit happen there. You know, I mean, of course, it's just a few stupid fucks that just ruin it for everybody. You know, I mean, I'm sure the fans are a lot more intellectual now today, but you know what? You're always going to have these stupid, drunk idiots that are in there making themselves look stupid.
But you are also a guy who put yourself kind of in the range of the idiot fans. You used to post on the Sherdog forums and talk to people there. Why did you put yourself right in the, like, I hate idiot fans, I'm going to go talk to every single one of them right now?
Well, I felt it was something good to reach out to the fans. You know, and you know, I've found a way not to really fight with them.
Right.
So if you notice, if there's someone that talks shit about me, I kind of pretty much like, oh wow, I'm sad. I kind of feel bad you feel that way, but yeah, maybe I am a fag in your eyes. So that's cool. You know, I mean, I try to cushion it. You know, and I like that interaction, because I feel for myself that I am who I am today. My foundation is successful today only because of what martial arts has done for me. So I'm grateful for people like you guys who promote the art. I'm grateful for the fans, even if some of them are idiots. I'm so grateful for them to, you know, promote the art to what it is today. So, you know, for out of that gratefulness, my gratitude that I have isn't artificial. I do seminars around the world because I want to give back to the people who help the sport. I communicate on Sherdog, and you know, sometimes on the I think the MMA TV forum, you know, because I know the fans love to interact with the fighters, and most fighters don't interact with the fans.
Yeah,
and it's my way of giving back and making myself available to say thank you, to be, you know, although some of them might rip on me or call me a fag because they know they're behind the computer and I can't reach them, you know, although that kind of shit might happen, I still feel it's a part of giving back to the fans that, you know, made the sport what it is, and in turn made me who I am today.
Yeah. Brilliant. So Enson, we like to ask this to everyone, and I think it's a really deep question, and it's made a few fighters think actually. Where do you see yourself in 5 years' time? Obviously, you're not a fighter anymore, but where do you see yourself in 5 years' time?
I see myself. I see my braces taking off a lot more.
Mhm.
I see myself being able to offer the highest grade stones at very good prices to my customers. I see myself still doing my volunteer work up north in Japan. And yeah, I don't know. I just I'm very content in my life. I'm happy with where I am. I got a freaking awesome wife. And I'm not saying that because she's here. She's an awesome wife. You know,
You watch it
my
later.
life is awesome. I see myself pretty much doing what I'm doing. The only thing that I'm really looking forward to is possibly doing some breeding with the kois on like the very good bloodlines. So I have a weird passion about the kois. I want to. I drove up 30 hours 3 hours last week just to go in and visit 2 koi farms to sit and watch them. And I actually told myself I'm only going to get 1 or 2, but I end up coming home with 5 new ones.
Oh, that's nice.
I that's the only thing if you ask me about 5 years, that's something I'm really excited about. I hope that passion can grow and I can get more knowledge in that type of business where, not for the money, but just because I don't know. I had some kois from the cheap kois from the home center, and they mistakenly bred. And I just thought, there's some eggs on some of these lily plants, so I just thought I'd pull out some of those lily plants. Lo and behold, there was over 170 fish on the eggs on that plant. I raised all 170 of them.
Wow, that's amazing.
And I hand fed them all, and I enjoy that. I go to the pond, and they all come up knowing that I'm going to give them food. Stick my hand in, they all come swimming into my hand. So if you go into my Instagram, I'm still doing it right now. But I just take I have a lot of joy doing that, and I'm looking forward to bringing in some. I'm buying expensive kois now, getting the top bloodlines. And I kind of dream of having my pond filled with high bloodline kois.
Enson, you are truly the idea of a warrior in a garden, and I absolutely love to see it. You're living well. You're living a good life. Now, we're going to play ourselves out of here. My name's Tim Wheaton, Tim Wheaton MMA, Calf Kick Sports. He is ashmma.cks on Twitter. Enson, everyone needs to check out. I will put the links below for everything, for Destiny Forever, the link for the book, the Enson Inoue Foundation, all the links, and the Instagram as well. Everything will be down below. But Enson, you get the last word here. Oh, and one more thing. Next time you come on the show, you need to grow a beard and hair. You look kind of weird between us.
Oh, no shit, yeah. No. It's the other way around. I'm the guest.
Oh, yeah.
That's it.
Everybody be shaved.
That's right. You get the last word here. Where can the people find more of us and play us out of here, Enson?
Well, I'm on all social media. You can reach out to me there. Every message that I get, I answer myself. Oh, I also have a YouTube channel that I'm covering a lot of my career, and check that out. Give me suggestions on how I can make it better. And last word is I'd like to thank you guys for doing what you guys do for the best sport in the world, MMA.
Thank you, man.
Thank you so much.
Right on, guys.